Welcome to Backyard OASIS, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Writers read the stories they love. In this Backyard OASIS mini-series, host Denise Schwartz introduces listeners to older adult authors, most of whom reside in and write in the renowned creative culture of rural Western Massachusetts or in other parts of New England. In each episode of Writers Read Stories They Love, listeners will hear authors both established and still working on it read several pages or a short chapter from their books and then talk about their work, their ideas, and the stories they wish to tell. So now you will hear Rich Vaden read Bird of Providence, short fiction written by T.P. Schwartz-Barcott, my brother, who died in 2021. Rich is an actor, playwright, and theater artist based in Western Massachusetts. Set in Providence, Rhode Island in 1989, the story features Joey G. Gagliardi, a young guy trying to find his way out of a neighborhood that no longer matters because no one who matters lives there. Bird of Providence is one of 5 stories in my brother's book, Let There Be Light, published in 2014. The stories are set in Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, the state of Washington, Kenya, and Vietnam. Schwartz-Barcott, my brother, is a sociologist who taught sociology courses and conducted sociological research at Brown University, Providence College, the University of Connecticut, and the University of Delaware. His other books include War, Terror, and Peace in the Quran and in Islam, Insights for Military and Government Leaders. After the disaster, Recreating Community and Well-Being at Buffalo Creek since the notorious coal mining disaster of 1972. And Concerning Caputo, Africa and Acts of Faith as Art, Science, and More. Bird of Providence is the first story in my brother's first book of fiction. The story takes place in 1989, a time when, it is said, American teens still had a desire bordering on obsession for cars. For many, having a car meant having a way out, having freedom to roam, to drive away from what you had to what you wanted, whatever that may be. And the place in the story is Providence, Rhode Island, a city loosely wedged between New York and Boston, with an identity of its own. My brother frequently wandered through Providence, doing sociology, as he often referred to it in many of the letters he wrote to me over the years. He wandered its neighborhoods, observed its citizens, and participated in many of its activities, including the Providence Arson Task Force and the city's many road races. And now, Bird of Providence.
So here he is. Like, who's to believe it? Little Joey G. Gagliardi, a street kid from Wap Hill making like a bird. A firebird. Flying out of smoking Providence in the middle of the night, getting away from the arson fires of the 4th, the heat, the losers, and the predators, even the foxes. But hey, Providence ain't the only place with foxy ladies. He's seen lots of them on TV in places like NYC and Atlantic City. Cousin Polly lives down there, last time he heard. Who's to say where Joey G will end up? Maybe down there with Polly for a while. Why worry about that now? He's just flying down I-95 in style, baby. Sipping a cool one from what's left of the 6-pack of Heinies in his Nike gym bag. Got 400 and crisp 20s stashed there too. His cut from Rico for helping Sly and Slick on that torch job in Unity Street just an hour ago. Got the leather back seat of his sweet topless red Firebird all to himself. Let those 2 druggies in the front seat worry about the driving. The driver looks like a hairy hippie. Calls himself Speedo. His companion, Queenie, is a sweet-looking young thing with a mane of wild, wavy blonde hair that flies all around in the wind. Joey sure wouldn't mind tangling up in that. Queenie claims her daddy gave her the Firebird, but Joey doubts it. Couldn't care less, actually. Not too happy about them snorting a couple of lines after he gave him 100 for the ride to NYC, but that's their problem. Just so they keep flying Joey G away from Providence as fast as can be, Arc lights flashing by, full moon, too. Looky over there. There goes the city zoo. Bye-bye, all you suffering creatures of the earth. Joey G is flying away in his flamin' red Firebird, and just in the nick of time. State Trooper Mad Mike Mulcahy, is getting more sullen by the minute. He's sitting in his personal pride and joy, the Monster, an official-looking supercharged gray Ford four-door cruiser. It's nearly identical to the one he drives when he's on duty, except that it doesn't have the big State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations insignias painted on its front doors. It's purrin', lights off in the executive parking lot of New England Life Insurance Incorporated, atop one of the highest hills in the middle of the state, 8 miles from Providence. It's relatively cool and clear up here at 2:03 on this morning of July 5th, 1989, not like the stifling heat, humidity, smoke, and smog that covers downtown Providence like a toxic curse, making his asthma all the worse, even after 3 hits on his inhaler. So Mad Mike is glad to be up here on the hill just sipping the cool suds of his second can of Budweiser. Only he isn't feeling any wiser or more relaxed, the way he usually does when he gets to his second can an hour after getting off duty. He doesn't feel like driving down the interstate 20 miles to an empty house out in the woods. Molly's taken the girls, once again, to her mother's place in Maine for the holidays, despite his objections. So he might as well wind down by having a few brewskis by himself here on the hill. Something that he'd been doing with increasing frequency in the past year or two. Bucky, the old-timer on duty at New England Life, knows his car and never hassles him. From up here, Mike can look out over much of the midsection of little old Rhodey and imagine it to be quiet, peaceful, and asleep. Then again, he can also catch glimpses of sections of the interstate, I-95, less than half a mile away as it curves around the hill and heads southwest into rural Rhode Island, coastal Connecticut, and New York. If he uses his binoculars, he can sometimes spot the speeding cars of drug runners as they make their mad dashes from New York City to Providence, Fall River, and Boston in the wee hours of the morning. Mad Mike has been told to leave them alone whenever he's off duty. The brass at headquarters warned him that it is none of his personal business. But he's having a hard time disengaging this time, despite the warnings and the second can of Budweiser. It's not just Molly taking the kids away for the holiday. On his way up here to the hill, he was listening in on his scanner to the police and the fire dispatcher in Providence. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Some fools had just torched the triple-decker where his dear deceased grandma lived when Mike was a little kid, 70 Unity Street. The dispatcher said that the house was supposed to be vacant, but the 2 young mothers with 5 little kids had been living up on the 3rd floor. Ambulances took all 7 to St. Joseph's. They were suffering mild smoke inhalation. The 2 women couldn't or wouldn't say much about what had happened. They didn't speak much English, and their Spanish didn't make much sense either. Illegals, probably. Firemen on the scene said it looked like the torturers started the fire on the 1st floor and probably didn't know about the squatter sleeping on the 3rd floor. Could be arson, too. There was plenty of trouble in the old Unity neighborhood with absentee landlords, tenants who couldn't or wouldn't pay, pushers, druggies, and who knows what else. Some of the boys at City Hall wanted to tear it down and let their developer buddies redo it into fancy condos. It was an easy walk from there to the cafes in Little Italy, and the rock concerts and hockey games at the Civic Center. Until that could happen, the poor old Unity neighborhood was just another worn-out part of the city that no longer mattered because no one who mattered lived there. Joey Gagliardi is still amusing himself in the back seat as that Firebird whistles past the harshly lit and barbed-wired buildings of the state prison, officially called the Rhode Island State Adult Correctional Institution. And bye-bye all you suffering creatures of the earth, too, Joey says to himself, with both empathy and relief. The cops ain't gonna find me now if I ain't in Providence, and that fire's probably out by now anyways. Bet that sucker is a wreck. Still smoking, though. Show Rico we can do the job for real, baby. For R-E-A-L, as Slick likes to say. Slick said we was going to have a big time on the 4th, and he meant it, even if we had to wait until the 5th, technically, for all the cops and covers to head home to their mamas. Sly had it figured out perfect. Waited until the cops was going home after the fireworks and big crowds downtown. Morning patrols weren't worth much. Probably only 5 or 6 cops working. Odds are they're hungover and half hiding anyways. Still, Joey was glad that no one was in the boarded-up dump at 70 Unity Street when they got there. That's the way Rico wanted it. No arson one for anyone. So the saying goes. City Hall don't like that. Maybe arson 4 or 5. Then no one's going to care after a few days. History. The records come in and they do their thing. Then the developers put up those condos that no one can afford, but they look pretty enough that City Hall can brag about it. Redevelopment. Progress. Blah, blah. If the condos can't be flipped, maybe Rico comes around and has Sly and Slick work over the condos for the insurance. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. Back there. Back in Providence. But hey, Joey G is out of there. He's on his way. To where? Who cares? Mama, maybe. Yeah, Mama sure will be worrying that she don't hear him coming home, late as it is. Maybe he should have left her a note or something. But then she might let it slip. If the cops come looking for him, she'll worry, sure, but she always worries anyhow. And she's got her bird and her cats to keep her company. That poor, miserable canary in that crummy cage surrounded by all those dirty alley cats she lets in. Some great opportunity for that bird, isn't it? Dinner waiting to happen. When she's happy, she calls it her bird of paradise, because of some old-timey movie she saw once upon a time. But the poor thing's so scared it don't even sing no more. It just kind of hunches over on its perch at the top of the cage, trying not to excite those mangy cats waiting in the shadows. Remember the time he moved the cage to the open window in the kitchen? Nice morning in June, sun pouring in. He opens the cage door just to see what that poor little bird will do. And what does it do? It just shrinks more into the corner of the cage as far as it can get from the door. Don't even realize this might be its only chance. Or maybe it's too afraid to try. Who knows what a bird thinks? At least that bird will be there to keep Mama company. Maybe he can call her tomorrow when he's too far away to come back. Tell her not to worry. Tell her not to say nothing to no one, not even Sly and Slick. Time to get away from them anyway. They's a bad influence on him. Keep pressuring him to do the actual torching, not just the lookout. No way Joey G is going to start torching nothing, no way. Chances are, Mama's going to start crying and say, "But I'm all alone, Joey. Why you gotta leave me now?" "But I ain't leaving you, Ma. I'm just leaving the streets for a while. The situation, Providence, gotta get away, gotta think about things, figure things out." "But when you coming back, Joey? How long I gotta wait? What am I supposed to do?" "Maybe you can come and visit me when I find a place, Ma. Get on a Greyhound bus and come for a visit, a vacation, maybe Atlantic City or Miami or someplace like that." "It's those boys you hang out with, ain't it, Joey? Slick and Sly in trouble again, ain't they? I heard about that fire on Unity Street last night on TV. The cops said it was local boys done it. Was it them, Joey? You wasn't with them, was you, Joey?" "That's just street talk, Ma. That's why I gotta leave. Too much street talk. Even when I ain't done nothing. Gotta go now, Ma. You take care." Mad Mike's immediate reaction had been to run the monster up to 70 Unity Street pronto and check it out for himself. He remembers staying there with Graham when his mother went to the hospital to have his brother Larry. The joke was that stays at Grandma's caused Mom to have another baby. And maybe they did. Certainly they gave him and his sibs a great sense of belonging and love. He smiles at the thought of how he always awakened to the sounds of Graham singing. When he'd stumble into the kitchen, all sleepy-eyed and hungry, she would reach for her purse, rummage around in it, and have a look of playful consternation, and then drop a handful of coins into his open palm. "Get us some cinnamon buns from Favreau's, Mikey, okay? And don't you eat any until you get back, you hear?" Graham's pretend sternness always made him feel good. He liked how she joked around. He liked how she took care of him. He'd skip down the 2 blocks to the bake shop where that pretty Favreau girl stood behind the counter looking as sweet as the pastry in the glass below. "What's it gonna be today, Mikey?" she'd asked, even as she was slipping cinnamon buns into the white paper bag. It was the same every time, and he counted on that. Made him feel secure or something. Something good. But things didn't stay so good. He remembered exactly when he noticed the change. He and Larry and Colleen and Katie went to visit Graham when their mom said they should. "Could be the last time," she said. The kids found Graham in her bed, curtains pulled over the windows. "Well, looky who's here," Graham said. "Come on over, I'm not dead. I want to see you four up close." Colleen moved right up to the side of Graham's bed and took her hand. Katie and Larry held back, just like Mike did. Afraid. Unsure. "Mike, get my purse," Graham commanded. She asked Colleen to reach inside for $5. "Give that to Mikey. Go get us some cinnamon buns, Mike," she said. He was happy to get the hell out of that apartment, but not so happy walking to Favreau's past the fenced-in playground and run-down houses that lined Unity Street now. No kids roamed the streets like they used to. Probably inside watching TV, he thought to himself. There was a kid outside Favreau's, though. Scrunched down, skinny butt almost touching the sidewalk, messy t-shirt bunched up showing his kid-sized stomach as the boy pressed his back against the building's brick wall. "What you doing, kid?" Mike asked, not expecting an answer. Not getting one. Just a wary look from the scrawny brat as Mike opened the bakery door. Loretta was no longer behind the counter. Achilles, her dad, stood in her place. "Mr. Favreau, what's going on? Seems different around here." "Things changing, Mike. Not in good ways either." The old man paused before going on. "What can I get you today?" "Are there any—" "Nope," interrupted the baker, remembering Mikey's never-changing order of cinnamon buns. "Only making donuts and bread now, for the customers who can afford them." "A bag of donuts then, please, Mr. Favreau." The baker nodded and began to fill a box. "Make it 2 boxes, okay?" asked Mike. "One for that kid." Mike hustled back to Graham's. Unity Street, the way it was now, gave him the jeebs. He even needed a key to open Graham's door now. Jeez. He stooped to kick a rolled-up Providence journal, soaked from who knows what, maybe some dog's piss, away from the transom. Now I'm getting like them, he thought. I'm not giving a crap how the neighborhood looks. He saw movement behind him, turned. "Hey, mister," said the scrawny kid. "Thanks." Even now, Mike remembers that sad little kid with the donuts, and wonders, whatever happened to him? Mama would be crying now for sure, thinks Joey Gagliardi, just like the time he told her about that pretty little bird he saw in January. Freezing cold, snow falling down slow and steady. Joey was just hurrying along in front of that abandoned mill on Factory Street. This pretty, puffy little brown lady and a white bird is searching for something in the cracks on the sidewalk. Then it looks up and sees Joey. It don't seem scared at all. Joey don't know what to do, so he says, "Hey, little bird, what are you doing down there?" The bird looks at him kind of funny, stands up on its tippy toes, lifts its head into the falling snow, and sings out, "Bob White, Bob White," just as sweet and clear as can be. It's a quail, for Christ's sakes. Only Joey don't know it at the time. It's a quail on Factory Street in Providence in a snowfall in January. And there ain't no fields or woods nowhere around there. "How do you figure that?" Joey asked his mama. But she don't say nothing. She just looks up at him from her easy chair near the stove. "I don't know. Poor thing. Lost, I guess." Mama looks like she's gonna cry. Joey don't know what to do. Seeing Mama cry always makes him sad. Before he knows it, he says, "Maybe I can help." "How you gonna do that, Joey?" "Don't know." So he heads back to Factory Street, runs into Slick and Sly leaning on their hockey sticks in front of a deserted garage, trying to stay warm by smoking cigarettes and burning trash. They start bitching about having nothing to do. Without thinking about it, Joey tells them about the little bird on the sidewalk over on Factory Street. The guys aren't particularly interested in the story. Finally, when Slick is done with his cigarette, he says they might as well go check it out since it's on our turf. He slaps his hockey stick on the concrete for emphasis and starts walking towards Factory Street before Joey realizes what's happening. Slick might try to puck that little bird with his lousy hockey stick. Who's to know? Slick always says he don't give a damn about nothing. Remember the time he beat a poor old blind alley cat with his hockey stick for no reason at all? Joey decides he better get to Factory Street first, using the back alleys. He's relieved to see that the little bird isn't on the sidewalk when he gets there. Slick and Sly show up and look around for the bird. "No damn birds around here, no way," Sly complains. Slick says, "I told you Joey was full of shit. Who cares anyhow?" Just then Joey looks up into the falling snow, and there, way up on a half-broken old TV antenna on the mill's roof, is that crazy little bird. Then, swear to God, that little bird looks right down to Joey and sings out, "Bob White, Bob White," just like that. Before Joey can think about it, he sings back, "Bob White, Bob White, Bob White." Then he adds, "Hey, little birdie, you better fly back to where you belong." Slick slaps his hockey stick on the concrete and mutters, "Dumb shits, you're as dumb as that dumb shit bird, Joey, wasting my time." Slick shrugs his shoulders and walks away. "I ain't seen a bird like that around here before," says Sly, smiling as if to compensate for Slick. "Don't seem like it belong in Providence, if you know what I mean. See you around, Joey." Joey can't stop thinking about that bird when he was helping his cousin Marky deliver used furniture to a place out in the boonies off I-95. Maybe it was off Exit 4, or something like that. Anyways, they get all lost on the back roads out there. No street signs or stores or much of anything but trees and more trees. After an hour of driving around getting more and more lost, Marky says they better call the boss and find out where they are. They see this old-timey red farmhouse and a big red barn with a white fence all around, nice and pretty like maybe 100 years ago. Marky pulls the truck into a long dirt driveway in front of the barn. They wait to see if there are any dogs around to make trouble. Then this guy comes around the corner of the barn carrying a metal cage in both hands. Only it's actually a trap of some kind. Inside is a big orange cat that's spitting and clawing. The guy puts down the trap when he sees them. He smiles and asks very courteously, "You fellows need some help?" Can you figure that? He's asking if we need help when he's the one with that mean old cat and we could be out here to B&E this place. Marky tells him that we're kind of lost and that he needs to phone his boss back in Providence. The guy tells Marky that he can use a phone and it's in the barn. Marky asks, "What's wrong with that cat?" The guy says the cats are always trying to kill his quail, so he has to trap them and move them elsewhere. "What's a quail?" I ask, without thinking much about it. "I'll show you if you like," says the guy. So, while Marky goes into the barn to call the boss, I follow the guy back behind his barn, and what do you think? All around the fields and gardens back there are these long cages that the guy says are pens. When you look close inside, you can see all these pretty little birds all huddled together. The guy says that the birds are called Bob White quail, and they're all formed up in coveys for protection. He tells me all about how he spent years experimenting, trying to figure out how to bring quail back to Rhode Island so they can live on their own. He says that there was once a lot of these quails in Rhode Island, but they disappeared years ago like a lot of other native animals. I ask him why they disappeared. He gives me lots of reasons, then says it's mainly because people put chemicals on their plants and let their house cats roam around outdoors killing things. Now, while he's talking, I see that these quails start moving around in the pens. Some of them start singing real pretty to each other, "Bob White, Bob White." Then I see that some of the pens have little gates that are open, and that some of the quails start walking in and out of these gates. I guess they're trying to figure out whether they want to stay safe or be free. Just then, one of them quails at the pen nearest to us jumps up and flies right up on the roof of the barn. It sings out, "Bob White, Bob White," just like that quail bird was singing in Providence in that snowstorm. I tell the guy about it. He listens, real interested in my story. I ask him if it could be the same quail bird, He thinks about it for a moment and says, "It's comforting to think so, isn't it? Maybe it found its way back here to its home." But when I looked back up to the barn roof, the little quail bird was gone. Trooper Mulcahy notices a vehicle going south on the interstate under the arc lights outside the shopping malls of South Providence. He has trouble focusing on it with his binoculars, fast as it's going. Looks like maybe a vet or a bird convertible, top down, driver and 2 passengers, one with a lot of light brown hair blowing around in the wind. Funny though, because druggies are usually racing to get into Providence, not out of it. No one's trailing it, as best as he can tell. Mad Mike watches as it flashes past the exit to the beaches along the bay. He figures he can intercept it around entrance 7 on the interstate and trail it for a while. He lives down that way anyway, off exit 3. Maybe the druggie stole it. If so, maybe the good trooper can do the owner and himself a big favor by forcing the druggies to ditch it before they crash it. Or maybe they will toss out any drugs or guns that he can recover for points on the force like he did twice last summer. He crushes his empty can of Budweiser in his left hand, tosses it under the seat, shifts the transmission lever into gear with his right hand, and stomps on the accelerator. He doesn't notice that his right hand bumped into the on switch of his Speedbuster radar gun, activating it. Joey Gagliardi notices that a little red light is flickering on the radar detector mounted on the dashboard of the Firebird as it speeds down the interstate past exit 7 and through the forested hills of West Greenwich. He sees nothing suspicious up ahead along the interstate. The highway is deserted, except for an occasional 18-wheeler. Joey looks into the rear over the trunk of the Firebird. At first he sees nothing but a full moon and the silhouette of the pine forests. It takes a few moments for his eyes to adjust. Then he notices 2 pinpoints of white light. Headlights, he guesses, closing in on him from maybe a half-mile away. "Hey, you 2 up there, better slow down. There may be a cop trailing us." The 2 druggies don't react. Maybe they don't hear him because of the speed and the wind. Or maybe it's because the tape deck is blasting out Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. Joey looks to the rear again. The 2 lights seem to be getting closer. He reaches up and shakes Speedo's skinny right shoulder. "Hey, pal, better slow down. Looks like we're being followed by cops." Speedo brushes Joey's hand off his shoulder. Cool it, man. We be too fast for cops. Can't catch this mother." Speedo kicks down hard on the accelerator. The Firebird rears back, nose up, feels like it's going to launch into space. Joey is thrown back against the seat. The can of Heine flies out of his left hand and arcs back over his head. She pulls herself forward in her seat, reaches out and switches the song on the tape deck to Jim Morrison's "Come On Baby, Light My Fire." Trooper Mulcahy can't figure it. He's doing nearly 90 and he can't keep up with them. Maybe they see his headlights. Hell, with this full moon and no oncoming traffic, he should be able to see the road even without his headlights. Here, he'll just snap off his lights and see if he can sneak up on them. Maybe they'll slow down. Or maybe they'll stop, or something. Joey's getting anxious. Speedo is having trouble keeping control of that Firebird at this speed. Nearly 110 miles an hour on that big orange dial on the dashboard. Then he notices that the low fuel warning light is on and that the red light is still flashing on the radar detector. Joey turns, but he can't see any headlights closing in from behind them anymore. Still, he can feel something closing in on him. Maybe there's also a cop up ahead just waiting for them now. As his anxiety edges toward full-blown, Joey remembers that they sped past exit 5 a few minutes ago. Somehow, he recalls that guy with the quail and the trapped cat. Wasn't that near exit 4? That's it. Maybe Joey should just bail out of this out-of-control Firebird at exit 4. Maybe he can find the guy's place and just lay low in the barn near the quails until he can figure out the situation. He's had enough of Speedo and Queenie anyhow. And this red-hot Firebird is out of control, and it's running out of gas, too. Whoa, what's that up there? A green road sign is coming up fast on the right. It says, what? Exit 3, 1 mile. Where the hell is exit 4? Where's the quail's place? Where the hell am I? Joey reaches up and grabs Speedo by the right shoulder, jerking hard this time. Hey, pal, this is where I get off. Pull over now. Bug off. I say, slow this bird down. Pull over, I'm getting out. Can't you hear, man? Bug off. To hell with this idiot, Joey says to himself. He boosts himself forward and reaches up to turn down the volume on the tape deck that is blasting out Light My Fire. What the hell you doing, man? Yells Speedo as Joey loses his balance and falls on Speedo's right shoulder, causing Speedo's right hand to pull down hard on the steering wheel. The Firebird twists violently to the right, lurches backwards, and flies into the air. Mad Mike Mulcahy can barely see the road in front of him. He realizes he's getting tired and sleepy. He decides that he's been given the slip. He doesn't care enough anymore about that speeding Firebird convertible to chase it beyond the exit to his own home, exit 3. It's time to call it a day and night. He's too tired to care very much about anything anymore. He smiles at the thought that that Firebird might just have given the slip at exit 4. There is no exit 4. That's the subject of endless jokes on the force. Maybe the Rhode Island Department of Transportation simply forgot how to count. Ha ha. Mad Mike starts easing his speed down into the 80s. He snaps on his headlights. He startles when he sees the bloody, broken body of a dead man on the road, a second before impact.
You can see Rich perform live in a staged reading of a new play with the Play Incubation Collective on Sunday, September 6th at 7:30 p.m. at the Northampton Center for the Arts. And you can see performances of his new play, The Last Seance, with the Majestic Theater Mystery Troupe in Northampton and Feeding Hills, Massachusetts, this October.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard OASIS, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.